Question. According to the scholars of Muhammadan Islam, interest is prohibited. How is it possible to conduct trade in any manner without interest? Is it possible that Muhammad, who was a trader on behalf of his wife Khadija, would forbid common interest? Answer. Since 9/11, the financial world in the West has been awash with the Islamic version of commercial transactions without interest. In fact and reality, no such transactions can exist even among family and friends, because interest is exactly what makes the world trade functioning. Let me now step by step debunk this another vile conceptual Muhammadan Muslim deception to add to the others that I have already revealed regarding who Allah truly is. That Muhammadan Islam is a cult belief system and not a religion. That Islam means submission and not peace. That jihad is physical war against all unbelievers, currently 80% of humanity who are not followers of Muhammad, called Ummat al-Kuffar, or nation of infidels, plus many more such mendacities. Usury is from the Latin usura, meaning interest. It was defined originally as charging a fee for the use of money. This usually meant interest on loans, although charging a fee for changing money, as at bureau de change, is included in the original meaning. In modern terminology, usury is the action or practice of lending money at unreasonably high rates of interest. It is very important that the listener should be made aware of the following traditions regarding Muhammad and trade. According to the biography of Muhammad as accepted universally by his followers, he was taken as a youth on trading trips by his uncle Abu Talib, who had become the guardian of the orphan Muhammad. Ibn Ishaq, page 81. The following is the tradition regarding Khadija and Muhammad. Khadija, who was a successful businesswoman, needed the services of an honest individual to manage her trade. At that time, Muhammad, who was 22 years of age, was recommended as a suitable choice for the job by several notable people of Mecca. Due to his success in various commercial-related ventures, Khadija prospered in her business. From the above, one must logically assume that Muhammad had to deal with very important trading transactions, both before and after his marriage to Khadija, that required the use of interest on money, either lent or borrowed. It is a historical fact that such commercial agreements and transactions were taking place thousands of years before Muhammad. Hence, he must have understood very well that no business could be conducted without the use of the medium of interest, excepting in the cases of barter dealings. He also may have encountered cases when exorbitant interest rates were either demanded or applied. In any case, based upon Muhammad's background as a merchant, it is inconceivable that he would have prohibited the ordinary use of interest by his followers. In the Quran, interest is called riba, which is copied from the Hebrew ribit, and is vehemently condemned. In the Bible, paying interest on loans is not prohibited. What is prohibited is interest at an exorbitant and unconscionable rate. The Quran rightly condemns such rates of interest in Al-Baqarah 2.275. Those who devour usury, يَأْكُلُونَ riba, will not stand except as stands one whom the evil one by his touch has driven to madness. That is because they say, trade is like usury, but Allah has permitted trade and forbidden usury. Since Allah permitted trade, and trade had been functioning with interest for several thousand years, then logic dictates that in Muhammad's mind, usury meant actually exorbitant rates of interest. Al-Baqarah 2.276. Allah will deprive usury, riba, of all blessing. Al-Imran 3.130. O ye who believe, devour not usury, riba, doubled and multiplied, but fear Allah so that you may prosper. The fact that in the verse above the terms doubled and multiplied is used with such vehemence could have only applied to exorbitant interest rates. Al-Nisa 4.161. That they, the Jews, took usury al-riba, though they were forbidden, and that they devoured men's substance wrongfully. If usury in the above means common interest, then Muhammad's Quran falsely, ignorantly, and of course maliciously accuses the Jews of breaking their own law regarding interest. Moreover, there is no concept of usury in the Torah, since lending with interest is considered a commercial, freely agreed bilateral contract between two parties. Interest, contrary to the Quranic verse above, was not forbidden at all, especially between an Israelite and a stranger, since a stranger also would not lend money to a Jew without interest. Deuteronomy 23:20. You shall not lend upon interest to your brother, interest of money, interest of foodstuff, interest of anything that is lent upon interest. To a stranger you may lend upon interest, but to your brother you shall not lend upon interest. It should be understandable that since a non-Jew would only lend a Jew with interest, then the reciprocal should also be valid. But if usury in the earlier Quranic verses meant exorbitant interest rates, then the verse makes perfect sense, since under this circumstance it should be prohibited. It beggars belief that Muhammad, who was after all a trader before and after his marriage to Khadija, would prohibit common interest, especially concerning his own Quraysh trading tribe. There is absolutely no doubt that riba could only have meant exorbitant interest. All the misunderstandings regarding interest in trade in the Islamic world is due to the fact that, unfortunately for his followers, Muhammad died before having had explained the meaning of the word to them. It was his ignorant, unlearned, and mostly illiterate companions, because they lacked his guidance, extended it in a very illogical and uninformed manner. Al-Tirmidhi Hadith 2830, narrated by Umar ibn al-Khattab. The last verse to be sent down was that on usury, but Allah's Messenger was taken without having expounded it to us. So leave aside usury and whatever is doubtful. Al-Khattab's comment, so leave aside usury and whatever is doubtful, is one among the most astute regarding the subject of usury. He is implying that since Muhammad had not detailed its meaning, Muhammadan scholars should not make a huge and contorted system to circumvent what should be a natural state of affairs. That is why the Muhammadan scholars, ulama, worked out an impressive but convoluted body of literature on interest to circumvent it theologically but not logically. All their contortions and shenanigans do not change an iota of the fact that interest is still collected but by another name. Thus, they try their utmost to defy the truth of a rose by any other name is still a rose. Although interest is prohibited under Sharia law for the allegedly noble reason that all earning should be as the result of one's own sweat and effort, nonetheless, based entirely upon their own Arabic historical records, Muhammad and his followers, unemployable thugs in general, found much simpler ways of enriching themselves. They did so by dispossessing, enslaving, conquering and plundering others of their produce and wealth over 3 continents for the last 1400 years. In modern times, the Muhammadans have created an elaborate methodology to circumvent this prohibition and disguise it under an Islamic cloak of terms and financial arrangements, but with exactly the same results, which is to either pay or receive interest but under other names. What the Muhammadan records prove is that when it was applied to those who were not his followers, unbelievers, such as Jews and Christians to start with, he demanded and extorted through a poll tax called jizya, in some cases up to 50% of their produce, without any physical or financial input from him or his followers' side. The Zoroastrian Persians later suffered the same fate. This, of course, was and is not considered by the Muhammadans as an unfair or unjust deal. Al-Tirmidhi Hadith 2826, narrated by Abu Huraira. Allah's Messenger said, usury has 70 parts, the least important being that a man should marry his mother. The term usury used in the above context has no commercial connotation whatsoever. In fact, it is used as a means of expressing an obscene degree of immorality, that a son should marry his mother. Since no commercial transaction is involved, then usury in this instance can only confirm that its meaning applies only to exceptional cases pertaining to totally immoral and or unjust circumstances such as exorbitant interest rates. Sunan of Abu Dawood Hadith 4858, narrated by Sa'id ibn Zayd. The Prophet said, the most prevalent kind of usury is going to lengths in talking unjustly against a Muslim's honor. Once again is the term usury used without any relationship to commercial interest. Once more, it is addressing the issue of excess. Hence, based upon the Muhammadan records themselves, regarding Muhammad's trading endeavors on behalf of his wife, the commercial needs of his Quraysh tribe, and the use of the word riba to mean excess, not related to business, shows that the ignorant followers of Muhammad got it all wrong and put themselves in a totally unnecessary straitjacket.